Yes.
That's great. I have an ask of you at the end of the call. So just about 5 minutes left in the call. I still need everyone to kind of be around, and hopefully Michael will show his face also. And I have one quick ask that Andy has has invited us to do. Brittany, thank you for joining us and being our guest. I'm glad we could coordinate your schedule. Norris did a great job doing that.
I'm happy to be here. It's been a discussion between Norris and I for a while.
Yeah.
And do you all have the link to the competition that was? If not, I can put that in the. Oh hell, I'll just put it in the chat.
Yeah, why don't you just go ahead and put it in the chat so we can, and I'll try to capture that on the meeting notes. So that would be great. And this is the Goal 5 agenda, which I will be working on in just a minute so that everybody can kind of check in. And I want to make sure that we give Brittany ample time. So maybe just as a, go ahead, Norris.
Oh, I just say we've got some new faces and somebody who looks like Adam Rentschler, but he never shows up for these things. So it may be an imposter, but
it's been a minute. It's good to see you.
Great crew of people, and I gotta say I'm very excited about this competition because yeah, they don't have may not have a lot of prize money, but I think that this is a great step. So, and Brittany, why don't you just let's roll. Can you tell us a little bit about this and how we might help you?
Sure. And this is actually my first kind of ESHIP goal meeting. So I'm not sure how you typically jump into things, but I see a couple familiar faces, Jamie here on the call, but other folks that I'm not familiar with. So is this kind of a group that knows each other well, and is this kind of most of the same crew that meets every month?
There are a lot of regulars, but there are some relatively new faces. So would you like us to do quick intros?
Yeah, is that possible with a group this size?
Yeah,
absolutely. Why don't we popcorn so that we kind of have a flow going? Norris, why don't you start just a 2-line intro? And then call on the next.
I don't think I can do 2 seconds. 2
okay,
minutes.
so two lines.
Hi, I'm Norris Kruger, ecosystem builder. Wear many hats in Boise, Idaho. And Pava?
Hi, I'm Pava from Baltimore. I'm with EcoMap. We use artificial intelligence to map out resources within entrepreneurial ecosystems. So my work's across the country. Ying.
Hi, my name's Ying. I run the tech incubator at Queens College in New York City, and I'm pretty new here, and I came through 1 Million Cups.
Glad to have you. Who's next? Who do you want to popcorn to?
Okay, hold on. Reagan?
Hi, I'm Reagan. I'm a business development officer at University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, in the tech transfer office there. I also wear a bunch of hats involving entrepreneurship and ecosystems, dealing with startups that are spun out of UCLA, as well as other universities. Next up is Jim.
I'm Jim Johnson. I'm with Fusion 54, City of Crawfordsville, in West Central Indiana. I'm actually one of the new faces. Here that you guys are talking about. Brand new, first time on one of these goals. Wanting to get involved a little bit more and learn a little bit about what you guys are working on here with this goal, and then also learn a little bit about some of the
Great to have you. You do know you have to send us each of us a virtual beer, right?
Virtual beer?
a virtual beer. No,
Okay.
anyway, well, we're glad to have you there. You
think I
picked
drank
a
them
great
all,
one to
so-
start off. So who do you send it to?
I will send it to CJ.
Who just found the mute button, sorry. CJ Cornell, I'm a former founder of 6 companies, 3 very successful, became a professor for a few years and an author and ecosystem builder from Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona. Oh, how about Jackie?
Oh, Jackie, you're on mute.
Jackie, you're on mute.
Thank you. So I'm a PhD candidate in Canada at the University of Waterloo and a lecturer at Ryerson University in Toronto. I'm in the management decision sciences area, and I've been part of ecosystems before my PhD and intending to go back into them, so both within and outside of the university in Canada. And let's see, let's go over to Christine.
Thanks, Jackie. Good to see everybody. Christine Lai. I serve as a community activator with Cecilia, and I really focus on the organizations who are providing different products, tools, resources, and funding that we will hear about from Miss Brittany, which is awesome to see her here. And I will tag team to Miss Jamie.
Hello, my name is Jamie Gassman. I'm the COO of a company called Fluent, and we are a national resource provider with Kaufman. And we have a product called the Fluency Score, which works like a FICO score for startups. And I'll throw it to Manoli.
Hi, everyone. I'm new here and glad to be joining you. I'm a fellow at Heartland Forward, which is a think and do tank based in Arkansas, focused on the Heartland. I used to work at the Milken Institute, running their regional economics research program, and I'm also a consultant with Star Insights. I'm looking to re-engage in this discussion after a couple of years away from the space, and really excited to be part of the discussion. Oh, I should throw it to someone. I apologize, I was late joining the call, so I don't know who's already gone. Kristen, have you spoken? Yeah.
I have not. Hi, my name is Kristen Slice, and hold on for this because it was just announced last week, so we're still working on it. I am part of the Orange Institute for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at Arizona State University, leading the Peoria Forward program, which is an ecosystem building program out in the West Valley of Phoenix metro area. And then I will popcorn it to, have we heard from Adam yet?
Thanks, Kristen. Hey, good to see some familiar faces. Sorry, I've been a stranger for a while. My name is Adam Rentschler. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called Ballot Evaluation. We are an evidence-based assessment platform where groups of people pass judgment on innovations such as SBIR programs. So with that, I will popcorn it over to Valto, who just joined us.
Yeah, hi everyone. So what was the question? Because I just joined, so.
A 2-line intro, Valto.
Oh, 2-line intro. All right, so yeah, I'm Val from Startup Commons and one of the ESHIP champs, and been very deeply involved with developing startup ecosystems around the world for more than 10 years and trying to focus on solving the biggest problems that have the highest impact. And I'll popcorn to someone who hasn't gone yet. So, Pava, have you gone?
I
Right.
just added it to the list. If I left anyone's name off, let me know. I'll just go ahead and introduce myself since I'm off mute. My name is Cecilia. I'm one of the ESHIP community activators, as Christine said. I focus on ecosystem practitioners. Those are all of you, custom and bespoke ways that you're working. And I will popcorn over to Michael.
Hi, everyone. I am an entrepreneurship professor at Louisiana State University in the middle of a 3-year comprehensive study of our ecosystem in North Louisiana. And I'll go over to Alistair.
Hi, I'm Alistair from Washington, D.C. I do research and write about complex adaptive systems, particularly as they relate to innovation ecosystems. Is there anyone else? I think
Jahani?
I am the last one.
Jahani, yes.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm Jahani Torres. I am a business development specialist at Colmena 66. Colmena 66 is an ecosystem builder and referral network in Puerto Rico. And I work mostly in the data gathering, analysis, and visualization of our initiatives. So I'm pretty new in the team. So this is my second meeting. So I'm glad to be here. I'm ready to learn about what we are doing.
Great, thank you so much. Did everyone get a chance to speak and introduce themselves? Okay, and just as I turn it over to Norris to introduce Brittany, I'm going to ask Christine if she'll help me scribe because there's a lot of people and a lot of moving parts. So I will again.
Did Ms. Gassman get to talk?
Yes, Jamie did introduce herself, so
Okay,
that's
good.
great. Here is the agenda again for those of you who joined late. There's not really an agenda. And just a quick thing. So most of you know the ESHIP Summit is coming up next week. Hopefully you're signed up. There are still scholarships available. So please let people know that we would love to have them join us. It's virtual, the 15th and 16th. Those are probably more of an intro. Well, those are definitely more of an introduction to ecosystem building, why it's important, why now. So it's great to invite people to. On the 29th, we've got a separate day that's more focused on building of the field. And so that's more about the profession and the practice of ecosystem building. And so all of you are invited to that as well. The current goal call cadences will end with this call. This goal number, the metrics people, all of you robustly show up month after month, and there's a number of you. And we invite you all to kind of keep going and maintain synergy and talk amongst each other. The goal calls will be following a stream of 4 different kinds of calls from this point forward, starting in October. One will be more of an introduction. So those of you who are fairly new to the ESHIP community, it would be a wonderful opportunity to hear from ESHIP champions, learn a little bit more about the work that's been going on, some goal projects along the way. There are people that are really deep into work of goal projects and want to move that forward. So there will be a call that's more focused on the initiatives, the actions, the projects that are working among the goals. Another one will be a community of practice. So speakers like having a guest like Brittany come and speak to us about their organization or the work they're doing or a focus. And then the other one will be mostly like a community social environment. So you get to know each other a little bit better, especially across this particular time where we don't get to convene. So we'll be announcing that and launching that going forward in the next couple of months, in the next couple of weeks as we roll through the ESHIP cycle. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Norris at like 5 minutes before the end of the call. I'd really love to have you on screen because Andy has asked us to do something very special. So Norris.
Oh, thank you, Celia. I'm just really excited. Always, this has always been a relatively popular call, and it's great to see some of our grizzled veterans like Adam showing up, and some great new faces like Jim and Jahani and Manoli, who the Heartland Board group is just killing it right now, and we may look to put you to work, Manoli. I can remember back in the day, the only people doing great metrics anywhere was Milken. they actually tested their metrics as opposed to saying, hey, this looks like a good metric. Let's actually see if it has any predictive validity. That was sort of scary. That's still kind of a radical concept. Anyway, but Brittany and ran into her, I think, at a couple ESHIP summits ago, and it's just been, she and her boss have been doing great things. They've done great things for the state of Idaho, so particularly pleased. But she told me she was working with this interagency group that was going to put on some sort of competition. So Brittany, you probably can explain this obviously a lot better than I can, but I think we'd be interested in the collaborative part and what we can do to help you, other than have our members win all the awards.
Sure. Thank you so much, Norris. Thank you, Celia. It's so great, again, for those who weren't on right away. It's wonderful to see you all, and I appreciate this space. So before I jump into the competition, and particularly, wanting to touch on getting some insights from all of you, I just wanted to give kind of a very quick background of myself as it relates to the ecosystem builder community, and part of why I love the fact that my job is kind of interacting and working in this space. So I'm with the Small Business Administration in the Office of Investment and Innovation on the innovation side. So our office focuses heavily on the small business innovation research, SBIR and STTR programs. And my role in there is even working with organizations that are supporting entrepreneurs that are looking for seed funding and in the deep tech and the R&D space. And so I have been doing that the last several years. But prior to that, even at SBI, I worked in a district office. So worked closely on the ground with a variety of organizations, institutions out in North Dakota that were supporting startups and small businesses. And so it's heavily tied in both through work and also through Techstars Startup Weekend. I was a volunteer organizer for many years and helped get that kind of launched out in Fargo. And even before those years, I worked for a nonprofit. I was working for Exion down in the state of Florida, doing microfinance, working with entrepreneurs starting with very, very small loans, and then also did some work in economic development with different associations in Guatemala through Peace Corps. So I feel like when I look through the train of my life, it's been with a variety of public and private entities, but all with this goal of really, kind of getting around entrepreneurs and looking to transform communities and people's lives. So it's great, and I love the fact that that through ESHIP over the last few years, it's really provided a space for more people across the country to be having these conversations and to have this kind of space to get together. So so I talked about what I do in a very general sense, but today I really wanted to highlight what Nora said. It's an interagency effort, and so I'm happy to answer any kinds of questions, during or after, but feel free to interject. So I'm trying to pack a lot in so that we have plenty of time for discussion. But our team is on kind of interagency group. It's the Lab to Market subcommittee. So it's a whole host of federal agencies that are from kind of like the science, the R&D space, where they are tasked with a goal of trying to see more technologies, innovations, be able to commercialize, go from lab to market through a variety of means, not just SBIR. And so this larger subcommittee has a variety of things they do, and to bring it short, they somehow had some funding available, and we were able to get that decided for a prize competition. Initially, one of the group's goals was to really have this whole space of, okay, so the federal government has a role in the innovation ecosystem, but there's so many different kinds of institutions involved from everywhere, the entrepreneurs, I mean, all of you here from universities, from folks that are doing studies, from the accelerators, and so, how do we better understand where there are connections, who's using certain data sets, who isn't, and if we ultimately want more success on the entrepreneur side, especially for underrepresented entrepreneurs. There's a lot of targeted kind of efforts taking place throughout these programs. So if we're looking at kind of diversity throughout the pipeline, you know, how does that happen? What's not going on? And initially, folks really did want to, folks in the subcommittee wanted to look at mapping, and you know, some of you, that's your job, and that's what you work on in terms of tools. And we had a request for input back in June, and you'll see some of that language show up on the website that Norris provided, and there's another website as well. But I think it became clear very soon, you know, the size of our prize competition, as he alluded, is small, and a lot of these efforts take a lot more money and support and structure that a prize competition might not provide. So the long and short was it was great. We were able to do a request for input, and so, you know, Norris, Valto, we had some great conversations as well, Christine, and a whole host of other folks that kind of provided their perspectives to really guide this. And so that's kind of a not a very public thing yet, but, you know, for the community to be able to influence the competition, I think for us, we've been particularly glad that it wasn't something that just came from top down. So the changes that were made to the competition now, we're having 3 categories, and we have 2 categories on the recognition side, which is kind of a great way to showcase stories and what people are doing that it might not be kind of widespread. So we have one that's it's the super connector. And so that's for current efforts successfully including networks of underserved communities in the R&D innovation ecosystem. So I do want to clarify, we do have kind of that niche focus. It's not just general ecosystem building, because these are all agencies, the agency's funding are all related to kind of R&D. So the first recognition was the super connector. The second was the ecosystem responder. And so that's more of the timely nature of what's going on this year. So the effective responses to the pandemic environment. I think if you've been involved in certain organizations or institutions that are supporting entrepreneurs, you know, working in this space, we had an issue for a while, especially accessing kind of university spaces with agencies getting funding out to companies that were doing work. And so we want to highlight some of the work that was done to be able to help these companies kind of absorb the shocks of 2020 to hopefully go on and you know, help in terms of economic recovery as we look into the next few years. And then the third prize category is visionary. And so this is more of an ideas category. So the first 2 categories, the prize amounts are $10,000. The visionary is $25,000. So still not a large amount in terms of making the biggest ideas happen. But for those of you who aren't as familiar with prize competitions, it is, I would say money-wise, probably one of the easiest ways that the government gets money out to folks who are competing. So it's not a grant, it's not a contract, there's not the, you know, kind of the significant reporting. Basically folks who are able to be registered in SAM are able to be then transferred funds. So the $25,000 idea prize is for very creative and actionable ideas relating to improvements in the R&D innovation ecosystem. And so that can be a whole wide variety of factors. It could be even a part of a larger idea, could hinge on some other things. But I think what we're really trying to solicit here is both on the recognition side, what are these groups that are really you know, making these amazing connections happen? What are they doing? Why? How can we elevate those stories through the competition? How can we help some of our federal partners see the value in that work? So I think, you know, this is kind of a short-term and a long-term vision, at least for, you know, our team at SBA. We're the ones running it. So we're like, if we're going to do the work to do this, we want to make sure that, you know, we can use that position to really get people on our side, the folks that might not be as familiar with ecosystem building and a lot of the organizations that are doing the work that amplifies, that connects with, that goes on, you know, beyond just the federal piece. And then the vision side, I think also, you know, with the funds, what can be done, and if it's, you know, kind of a part of something larger, again, on the federal side, can we connect that to folks that have maybe other budget or other resources to help fund that after? But is there a way that we could at least get it through the gate in that sense? So that's what the competition's looking like. We have a total of $325,000. And so, you know, again, I'll always wish for more, but happy to at least have that amount. And for requirements, you're going to have all the details will be released actually during ESHIP. We'll have it live. But we do kind of a 10-slide deck. So no crazy long, you know, forms in terms of applying. But ask for enough information that our judges can be able to weed out or at least elevate the folks that are really shining in this area. We'll have a mix of federal and non-federal judges. And so that's just kind of a little side note. My ask is always for participation, and so either as a judge or you know, someone submitting. It sounds like many of you would be with organizations that might be interested in submitting, but if you know you would not want to submit, then we are looking for judges from the community. And so
Brittany, can we both be a competitor and a judge?
No.
I know the thought crossed a few minds. This is really amazing because so much of the attention at the federal level is a very top-down, very institution-driven models, and that this is a much more bottom-up, innovator-led model that's very exciting. I'm sort of curious as to sort of the process. What was the most pleasant surprise you found as you were moving forward, trying to herding all the cats to all these different federal agencies? Any pleasant surprises?
I think probably the most pleasant surprise is that, you know, despite people having limited bandwidth and, you know, this year not being able to travel, there was such an interest in hearing what's going on. There was kind of this thirst for what are the stories, how can I learn more, how can we, you know, be engaged, and we as federal to non-federal. And so I think that was a surprise. You know, I definitely hoped for that, but thought it might take more prodding in a sense. And especially when we transitioned from, you know, the initial idea of a tool, you know, almost like a not quite physical, but even if it was an electronic tool, to more of the recognition. For a while, I didn't think we were quite going to be able to make that shift. And so that was kind of a great surprise. As I mentioned before, we do see this being you know, this is the competition, but it doesn't just start and end with, you know, kind of giving the high fives and giving out the prizes. We want to see more connection. So my big ask actually to this group now, Norris, you know, it's not just the judging and getting the word out, because those are always helpful and really great. But I think for us particularly, when we're looking at the challenges of understanding the federal side, and even on the data side, and that's why I was particularly interested in coming today, what people have looked at where they've had challenges, and kind of the big ask of what are your ideas to keep engagement? You know, how can we use this competition even more than what I've mentioned to tie in people around the country doing great work with what's going on or could go on through different federal agencies, through funding, through support to entrepreneurs, support to ecosystem builders.
Well, you've got the right audience for that. Does anyone want to have a question they want to, an idea they could suggest to Brittany? I know you guys are all shy and retiring. Alistair, any thoughts?
Brittany, could you?
Yes, one question.
Go for it.
Is, I think you mentioned Sam earlier. Do the applicants have to have some, or what do the applicants have to have in terms of arrangements with the federal government to receive funds?
Sure, we'll have the detailed eligibility out in the announcement, but the folks who apply do have to be either with a group that's more than half from US based, so we can't have folks from outside the United States, so whether that's citizen, permanent resident, and over 18, and that SAM account. So if you're registered in SAM, so that the funds are deposited by to the account that's related to the DUNS. But other than that, it can be a state, entity, university, accelerator, individual, team. There's as long as they're in I don't know the legalese term, but in good standing with the government, those funds are allowed to be deposited.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Anybody else raising their hand here? I want to chime in.
I heard somebody before.
Yes, Brittany, that's me. That was me. Brittany, could you reframe your ask one more time? I feel like I was thinking about like an earlier part of it and then I missed the very end. But I would love to address it, but I just didn't quite grab it.
Sure, and with this, sometimes I have so many asks, I do try to morph them all into one question, then it just goes off the rail. So, so I talked about the prize. We already have the structure of the competition. So we're past the input on the actual structure. And so I know we're going to get a wide variety of hopefully really good submissions and be able to provide that recognition. But after the fact, there's more community needs, and we want this to build into bigger things. So how can we on the federal side, or even just through this competition, do folks have ideas that this could either overlay in your activities that these kinds of groups are already doing? And then even on the federal data side, since there's a lot of folks here that focus on the metrics and data, are there things that they see possible through this of being available or going on in terms of connections? So there's kind of a wide variety, but I think in the future, if we're doing this kind of recognition and these vision prizes, how can that be even more impactful? And then how can I probably get some of my federal colleagues to support this work, so it's not, because there's much more to be done than what we're looking at here, right?
So, Brittany, can I ask a quick kind of follow-up question to that? Which I think you started to get to it, so it'll be a little bit me saying what I'm hearing just to kind of double check. Overall, your goal for this award isn't just to have an award, it's to elevate ecosystem builders and advance the field. And so your question is, how do we use this award to advance the field? And one of the things that you've identified is that awareness of what ecosystem building is, and in particular in this moment, is relatively low amongst your federal partners. And so a piece of the question is, what might be a metric or an outcome that you can use in this award to help further that specific goal? A couple of ideas is that fair?
Yes, Kristen, you said so well. We should have had you working on our wording documents.
I do a lot of 1 million cups rephrasing, so you can thank that training for it. So to me, just a couple of initial ideas. It would be interesting to actually measure, like, what is the outcome from being an award winner or from applying, right? Like from the get-go, having a survey process from the institute itself that is applied. I apologize for the co-working space. But in general, do they get more contacts? Can you make one-on-one contacts? Like even just a high-level connectivity question when they were first awarded. How many people within the federal government, within federal resources do you know? Right? And then measure 6 months out or a year out, did they find additional contacts? And I think even just sharing that with the awardees from the get-go, like, hey, our goal here is to really highlight your work. So a piece of this isn't just winning the money, it is going forward and being a representation and building these relationships. We're giving you this outlet. So I think if you frame it right, I think ecosystem builders should really enjoy and like attach on to that opportunity and would run with it. And so it might be interesting to have that as a metric, but make sure that you're setting it up in the right way from the get-go. So when they get the funding, they can then, oh, who do I reach out to on LinkedIn? Here's a list of the people, and kind of coordinate their efforts.
I love that, Kristen. By the way, somebody's not muted.
It's me.
This is a
It's
co-working space.
yes. I have my co-working / husband behind me, and so with the daughter in the other room. I apologize.
Well, in that case, it's perfectly okay. I love this networking thing. Brittany, I asked you this before, and I'll bet you Christine asked you this, is that even nobody gets paid enough, nobody gets appreciated enough. You can pay, a few people with this award. I probably should have said, most of us would do it for $5. The 25,000 sounds pretty good, but there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be essentially finalists for this. I mean, even just the pool of people applying. One, is there going to be a way to, make sure a lot of people get at least, their name in print, which might serve them very well in their home communities? And how can we, are you thinking about building sort of a network out of these people? I mean, or whether engaging them with ESHIP or whether having a separate, you're going to have a rock star advisory board out of the finalists of this.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Norris. I think on our end, we definitely have the desire to engage the larger group of people who apply, so not just the finalists. And there was a question here of how many projects will be awarded, and actually, it's been left vague in a sense that depending on the quality of submissions, we're able to give awards in any of the 3 categories as long as the end totals 325,000. So it's possible we could have 7 different big visionary ideas funded, and then 15 recognition prizes across the 2 recognition categories. Right. Or it could be any mix depending on how those come in. But,
so I'm seeing some questions. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Kristen. I thought you were Brittany.
No, so I see some of those questions too, so I'll try to loop those in here. So we did actually talk about having a community vote as part of it, or people's choice. We had a few issues with our legal folks, the general counsel, of how we would manage that. So we kind of put that on hold because we could only fight so many battles at once. But that's something we might be able to pull in there. No, I think it would be great, and I would love to talk. Christine and I have been in touch on this quite a bit, and some other folks at Kauffman, but to see if there's ways we can loop them in to any efforts on the Kauffman side that makes sense. And also on our side, I specifically in my job work a lot with the organizations that are just SBIR specific. So it is sometimes hard to find a place for people who are in the general R&D innovation ecosystem to meet up. So we would look for some creative ideas of how that could look, if community led, what would be needed on the Fed side in terms of support. But for the ones that aren't accepted, we might be able to disclose some of their information. We'll have to see again how that will be listed in the competition and what folks give us permission for. And then I think the goal is during Global Entrepreneurship Week to have it all announced, and to include folks in even a virtual a virtual event where we could bring people together in a strategic and intentional way.
Great. And Adam and Jackie have had their hands raised.
Awesome. Thank you. So Brittany, two questions. First of all, thank you for putting this together. This is an amazing opportunity for many of us on this call. So awesome, very timely. Can you give folks on the call a sense of who the other agencies are with whom that you're working most closely on this? Because that exposure, speaking selfishly, is far more valuable than the prize check itself.
Sure. So the subcommittee is rather large, and if you go to that page, you can even click on like the full subcommittee members in terms of the agencies that are required to be in Lab to Market. But we kind of have a subset of the subcommittee. It feels very governmenty sometimes. But the people actually that we meet with on a weekly basis, and those of us kind of doing the grunt work, we have NIST. That's closely involved, and actually, the Federal Lab Consortium kind of through that, which is funded through. So working closely with those folks, with John Dement and that whole crew. We also have some great representation from NASA, from Department of Energy. Some people have worked on some of their prize competitions, actually. I would say are the closest, although in the larger group, we have EDA, we have the Office of Science and Technology Policy, OSTP.
Nice.
And so they were actually the ones originally slated to do the prize competition, but then through this year, I don't remember the exact details, and just keeping it here, but so it did get shifted over to us at SBI, which is great because well, it's great to have, like I said before, some of that control to kind of guide.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, I know, Adam, that's a good point. If you think it would be helpful for us to even list that out, when we're putting up kind of the larger prize information, some of the agencies kind of involved, if you think that would be useful or interesting to people who would be applying.
I mean, selfishly for me, it certainly is. I often think about competitions like yours as putting out a bowl of cream and hoping to herd cats with that delicious seeming bowl of cream. And the check size here is nice, but I think that the relationship potential is a far more valuable thing.
Mm-hmm.
Very quickly, not to take too much of everybody's time here, but one technical question for you. We're lucky enough to be both managing SBIR programs on behalf of the federal government and also a recipient of those same funds. And so we're very cognizant of the need for us to avoid double dipping. Do you have, can you tell me if prize competitions are, would that apply? Because the idea that we would submit to you is one that we're also considering applying for a direct to phase 2 SBIR grant on. So I don't want to get ourselves into double dipping, and yet I'd like to pursue both opportunities.
Sure. So the prize competition's much easier. There's not that same kind of oversight as direct to phase 2. So I think we're going to have to be careful as what you propose in the direct to phase 2 can't be something that was paid for with these federal funds. So I think it's more of like that match piece. So like applying for the prize, I think you'll be fine. Regardless of how you set that up, there's no double dipping in prizes. I mean, you can essentially double dip a prize. There's no accountability in that sense, but for the direct to phase 2, there will be.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Yep. And Norris, I'll actually say the link that you put up for those are the SBIR agencies. I was referring to the lab to market agencies, which are a lot of the same ones, but there's some other agencies that don't have SBIR programs that are kind of in that loop.
Jackie?
There we go. Okay. Yeah, just wondering if there's any eligibility requirements for potential collaborators who contribute from outside the US, but join a team, obviously, that's greater than 50% US based.
Sure, I'll double check the eligibility because I know some of that changed since we put it together, but I'm fairly certain that as long as it's majority US based, it would work.
Okay, so there's nothing, I mean, I guess over 18 probably, but aside from that.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Are you over 18, Jackie?
I am. Thanks for asking.
Well, at least we can do in these perilous times. There are a couple other, Balto, you had a question?
Yeah, it's a question, and I guess also a statement since I represent the non-US actor both as an individual and also as Startup Commons as an organization, but we definitely would have something to contribute or take part in the visionary project ideas. But we fully understand and accept the limitations of being US based, specifically taking account how things are hopefully going to expand from that, and that's really great. And our role is never to be a local actor in any market where we collaborate. So I just want to make a statement that we're happy to collaborate with anyone who either is looking to pitch on that or is looking to wanting to be involved, but maybe not even have an idea. We're happy to give idea and contribute for that, and hopefully get that you know, something moving on the US market, and then led by those who will take part on that. So we as an organization will not be able to continue, and that's also like we're able to continue taking part, but not to lead anything in that sense. So that's a great arrangement, but we are happy to take part if someone is looking on that category.
Okay, and it
That's
looks like
true.
Jamie had a question.
Yeah, I have just sort of a half, probably not even half fully formed thought, Brittany, thinking about what your partners might be looking for as sort of a long-term, a long-range outcome from this project, right? So the sort of on-the-ground metrics are interesting, but for me, I'm wondering about this prize competition as sort of top of the funnel for perhaps some kind of open topic SBIR call in the future, right? So you're building this database of folks doing amazing work, right? Of people who are even applying, right? So what kind of, when you look at the submissions, which of these agencies could take on proposing, you know, a bucket of money that would fund local economic development, research and development that spans communities? What's the next step, right, for maximizing this knowledge and this sort of pool of energy that you are creating? So I don't know what that looks like. I have no idea the logistics, but that's what came to mind is like, what's the outcome? Well, it could be something that they're spinning up to take advantage.
Yeah, it's a great point, Jamie. We had a big meeting with all the SBIR agencies 2 weeks ago. Now we do that every 2 months, our team does. And we were telling them about this and trying to get them excited. We've been kind of planting those seeds along the way, but something else that they have, and this is somewhat in the weeds, but with the topic of money, I do like to bring up things because you never know where people are going to have ideas or make those connections, right? So the SBIR agencies, there's a pilot program where they're able to take actually 3% of their SBIR budget and spend it on improvements to their program that trickle down to the entrepreneur, and that's for outreach and for even on their data and reporting. And they actually transfer, some of them do money to our team to do things across the agencies. And so that's how we paid for the SBIR Road Tour. That's how we pay for all of our train the trainer activities and a bunch of other things, since I have no budget SBA. So basically I get to use their money for some of those efforts. But it wouldn't even necessarily need to be an open topic, because what I'm seeing is a lot of these agencies, they have to request this money from SBA, and I see them trying to fund different things that they're across, and so I could see this being a really good pipeline in terms of kind of credible people, teams, ideas to fund, if we can fill in some of those possibilities versus it being challenging on either side, right? So working the federal government can be a challenge. On the federal side, trying to find folks on the ground can be a challenge.
And I wanted to make
3%?
sure that
We'll make sure we leave for 5 minutes. So the 3%, is that something new, or has that always been there? That 3% of an SBIR budget can be used for?
No, so it's actually been there a while, but it expired for a year. So it lapsed in 2018 and then was brought back again last year. So now we've started reporting on it in the annual reports.
I want to make sure
any other questions?
I want to make sure that Michael's, hang on, Norris. I just wanted to make sure Michael's question about the timeline was addressed enough. Michael? Wait, we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, just in general, is this a short-term sort of thing? Are you looking out 10 years? What's your scope on this project?
Sure. So money-wise, we only have this one chunk that's guaranteed. So we don't have this, might not come up next year depending on how things go with the subcommittee. And obviously there's lots of discussion into next year. What 2021 is going to be looking like, budget-wise, agency priority-wise. So we look at this, the competition. We're going to have this run through the fall. And so we'll have this announced in November. But many of our agencies, it's under our kind of general scope already to continue that support and those activities into the future. And so I think we can at least more confidently guarantee activity around it over the next 2 to 3 years. And then I think from there, it'll take a little bit more massaging in terms of having a more solid or kind of guaranteed of who owns this, what do they have to do, just to make sure that it won't just you know, kind of fade away or be attached to the people involved.
Great. Norris, Valto, Eric, do you have anything that you want to share in the last couple of minutes? You're on mute, Norris.
I'm like CJ, I'm really good at that. I'm just really jazzed because this has tremendous legs in terms of implications for the future. And I hope that there are a lot of ways that we can help, both as, you know, sending you great competitors and certainly that there are plenty of people who would be great judges. But since we only got a couple more minutes, are there any other questions? Anybody feel like wanted to stick their hand up and while we got Brittany on the horn? Any other questions? Reagan? Johnny?
Yeah, it's just an idea. I was thinking that I see this competition as an opportunity to measure and know how everyone is doing things and opportunities to collaborate. It could result on a matching system between organizations that are lacking in an area with experts that are working on that area and maybe create like a match so they can collaborate and share lessons learned. I don't know if that's something that has been done before, but having all of that information in the submission form can allow you to do that.
Yeah, that's great because we do this stuff in ESHIP, but the federal government isn't seeing that in all these important agencies. And I would think that Comena 66 might be a pretty darn good competitor in this. But we promised. We've got, anybody else want to add a question? We got 3 minutes till it's Cecilia time. You guys are being very shy. Well, let me thank Brittany and send hi to her boss, Jennifer. And this is just absolutely, you know, I'm watching the grid and seeing, you know, the light bulbs going off over everybody's head. So thank you. And we're looking forward to the actual announcement, and anything you need from us, you holler, we're there.
Pava, did you have something?
Super specific question, so I definitely want to give time for that. I can follow up offline.
Okay, that'll be great.
I was just about to say that if there's remaining things that people can reach out to me directly if the answer is not already up on the page. So and sign up. There's a link to sign up if you want to make sure that you get the notice that it's out, or if you want to be a judge.
That'll be great. Thank you so much for your time and energy. Okay, so this is something that Andy has asked for, and I want to make sure that all of you have your game faces on. So hopefully Eric can be on screen. I don't know if he can. So with the ESHIP Summit being virtual this year, Andy is tapping into his inner Oprah, okay? And we want to show an enthusiastic audience in at the ESHIP Summit. So we don't have canned laughter. If you have logo backgrounds, you are free to put those on, right? We need all of you waving like he said, wave like you are going to Hamilton, okay? So big smiles and waves, and I don't know how else we're gonna do this. So Christine, what else do we need? Okay, all right, so everybody wave like you're saying hello, wave like you're greeting Lin-Manuel and Andy and Oprah. Oh my gosh, if he gave you a car, I can't promise, what would that look like? Okay, Jackie, come on, wave, we gotta see you. Thank you so much for this indulgence. We were going to put your faces on the screen during ESHIP so that we can make sure that that's great. All right. And with that, with great appreciation on behalf of the ESHIP champions, Christine, myself, thank you again for your time and energy. We will look forward to seeing you at ESHIP. If you have not signed up already, registration is still open for a little while longer. There are scholarships available. Apply, come join us. We need you. We can't do this work without you, nor would we want to. So we will look forward to seeing you too. All right, last wave. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Great to see you. Thanks, Brittany.
Thank you.
Great questions, everyone, too.
Thanks,
you so
and all the
much.
newcomers. Welcome, Jim, Jahani, and relatively newcomers like Jamie and Ying. Thank you for coming. And Adam, thanks for joining us. After all this time, this is just a great group of people. So
have a good rest of
we're
your
done
day.
early.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.